Hello, and welcome to the Bartender Video Tutorials. In this video, you will learn how to create a GHS-compliant label using Bartender. GHS labeling stands for the Globally Harmonized System of Classification and Labeling of Chemicals. It is also sometimes called CLP in the European Union and HAZCOM in the US. This system is used to provide a visual means of identifying chemicals, their hazards, and safe handling methods that can be understood by chemical handlers around the world. Bartender comes with sample GHS label documents that you can use as a starting point to create and automate the production of GHS-compliant labeling. In the GHS subfolder of the Bartender Documents folder, there are two pre-built GHS labels, one for containers less than 500 liters and another for containers over 500 liters. This comment dialog window shows that this sample GHS document contains all the required data sources to create a GHS label. In this video, you will learn ways to modify the label to suit your specific needs. This sample document populates all of the information it contains from a database. The sample database included in Bartender contains all of the elements required to make a GHS-compliant label, as well as some supplemental, optional information. These elements include the product identifier, pictograms, signal word, hazard statements, precautionary statements, CAS number, fill weight, lot number, supplemental information, and the manufacturer name and address. You will notice that each database field corresponds with a required element on the label template. Your database will need to have fields that correspond to each of these database fields. To connect your own database to this document, open the Database Connection Setup dialog. To remove the sample database, simply select the database and click Remove. To connect the new database, click the Add button, which will open the Add Database Connection wizard. Click Next, and now select the new database platform. Click Next again, and now you can use the Browse button to locate the database on your system that you want to use to populate the data on your GHS label. Once you have selected the database, click Next. Add the tables in your database by selecting the table or tables and clicking the Add button. When you click Finish, you will see your new database connected where the old database once was. One thing to make a note of: in order for the label objects to appropriately connect to the new database, it is important that your database uses the same data field names that the sample database used. If your new database has different field names than the sample database, you can change the name of any field by using the Alias button. Simply select the field that you wish to change the name of and click the Alias button. You aren't actually changing the name of the field in your database, but rather you are creating an alias that allows Bartender to line up your database fields with the field names of the sample database. Creating a field alias in Bartender, rather than editing field names in your source database, can be useful when the database is providing information to other documents or resources besides Bartender, for example, an SDS library. Now that the database is connected, the design of the label can be customized. You can resize any of the elements on your label to accommodate your particular design style. You can also rearrange the information to suit your preferences by simply selecting items and moving them on the template. This red crosshatched section is where the pictograms will be. Right now, it can't be moved because it is on a separate locked layer. If you open the Layers pane in the toolbox, you can see that there are 4 layers in this document. This first layer should not be adjusted since it contains information such as code scripts that allow the document to work properly. The second layer is an informational layer that corresponds to this blue instructional box, and you can delete it if you so desire. The third and fourth layers can be adjusted. You can see that the GHS design layer has a green unlocked icon, which is why all of the objects on the label can be moved except the pictogram area. To adjust the pictogram area, unlock the pictogram layer by clicking on the red lock icon. Now all of the objects on the template can be moved and rearranged. Further adjustments can be made to the pictograms by using the named data sources. Open up the first named data source, GHS Colors to Draw, and you can see that the embedded data field is empty. Check the print preview to see what the pictograms will look like on the printed label. The pictograms have 2 color components, a red border, and a black image. If you have a printer configuration that only allows you to print a single color at a time, the GHS Colors to Draw named data source allows you to print the two color elements separately. Type in red for the embedded data field of the GHS Colors to Draw named data source, and Bartender will print only the red border portion of the pictograms on the label. Type in black, and only the black image portion of the pictogram will print. This will allow you to print both portions of the pictogram separately. The other named data sources work in a similar fashion. The GHS Horizontal Alignment named data source has three options that you can use to set how the pictograms will align within the pictogram space: center, right, and left. The GHS Pattern named data source has four options for auto-formatting the pictogram's layout: line, sawtooth, argyle, and auto. The auto setting determines which layout pattern is most efficient and automatically chooses the layout pattern that provides the largest pictograms for the allotted space on your label. GHS Red Color allows you to change the shade of red that is used in the pictogram borders. You can type in the name of a color recognized by Bartender, or use a VB script compatible syntax to identify an RGB or ARGB color. The GHS spacing method determines how the pictograms will be spaced. Overlapping overlaps the borders of the pictograms. Touching lines the borders up edge to edge, and gapped leaves a blank space between the pictogram borders. Finally, the GHS vertical alignment allows you to align the pictograms at the top, bottom, or center of the pictogram space. Now you have all the tools you need to customize your own GHS label. To quickly recap, Bartender comes with sample GHS label documents among its sample documents. You will need to connect your database to Bartender and make sure the fields or aliases match the fields in the Bartender sample database. You can further customize your GHS labels using the pre-designed layers, and you can modify the appearance of the pictograms using the existing named data sources. If you still have questions about this process, consult the Bartender Help System or check out our other videos. Thank you for watching.